state of Wisconsin in about 2015 decided that they were going to regulate all waters for phosphorus because it's a nutrient that impairs waters, which meant that any municipality, any utility, any entity that actually wants to discharge to statewide waters means you have to meet the phosphorus criteria. From a district perspective, to meet the statewide water quality standard, we had many choices. The traditional choice is to build more and make a better biological system. And in our case, our biological system was at its peak. When the state said we're going to have some strict water quality rules, they said we're going to make a more flexible regulatory framework to sort of meet that. And that's where the adaptive management idea comes in. And there's also water quality trading in that box of tools. But adaptive management is more of a holistic look where instead of individual transaction, it's a group effort that reaches toward a goal. So then when we looked into adaptive management and that model, which is looking at partners and pooling your resources, it still would cost a lot of money, but our individual contribution, because we're pooling resources, will be a lot less than the multi-million-dollar price tag. We got all the players involved, and it isn't just the named dischargers. We're only part of the solution. Part of the plan involved agricultural sources. That's where we connected with the higher price farms because they have a board, they have structure, they have a cost share program. But all you need to have is a network of farmers that already exists. So if you get some trusted messengers that are, respected in the community, they can do this work for you.
So Yahara Pride Farms is a farmer-led nonprofit, a 501c3, founded in 2012 by a group of farmers and agribusiness and lake enthusiasts in the Dane County area in the Yahara Watershed. So we started communicating back and forth with the Madison Metropolitan Sewer District, and we thought we had a great opportunity to work with them to help install practices upland in the watershed that could make a difference for everybody. And so we started this pilot program working with farmers, putting in cover crops, and it grew into more practices. And who better to lead water quality than the people that work directly with the land and with the water? And the amazing thing that always happens in the farm community is once they understand the issues and understand what the goal is, farmers will push to meet that.
We don't dictate practices, we dictate phosphorus reduction. So however you can show and measure a phosphorus reduction, we don't care how you do it.
Wisconsin DNR allows communities to make trades to offset the phosphorus that they discharge from their treatment plant over their discharge limit. The trades can be developed by any number of best management practices, and there's different trade ratios depending on where the trade is taking place and what kind of best management practice is being used to generate the credit. The first thing we did was facilities plan, where you look at, here's the current wastewater loading and discharge, what it's going to be in the future, what the limit is, and then we developed alternatives where we upgraded the treatment plant to get all that phosphorus removed there. We looked at upgrading it part of the way to trade with sources outside, and then we looked at not upgrading the treatment plant and trading for all of it. And that analysis led us to believe that we could remove the majority of it by doing a partial upgrade of the treatment plant, but to get the last 30% of it would become very expensive, and we decided to pursue trades to achieve compliance through that.
We moved back to the farm 10 years ago because we really cared about this land and really had a dream of both fixing up our old historic farmhouse and doing something special with the farm. So we really have found a niche of people that really care about eating grass-fed meats and pastured meats, and that's growing.
we plan on turning what is row crop ground into perennial cover. And so what we're doing is already reducing the phosphorus load coming into this creek. And so it seemed like a kind of a no-brainer to open up a dialogue about that. I got to know the folks involved and understand what they were doing, and it looked like a win-win to me because they were regrading the stream banks and fixing up the creek in a way that would only help us for however we wanted to use the land, and it also helps the village of Albany.
The City of Broadhead Trading Project really is made up of three types of projects. One is a facility or a structural project. The second one is a stream bank stabilization project. And the third one is more of a cropping practice. So with that, each one of them has pros and cons. And so when we improve facilities, they're fixed, they're permanent. We typically are controlling the environment in some fashion as well as the operation and maintenance. And so we have a fixed ability to account for a certain number of pounds of phosphorus.
One of the interesting projects we worked on was improving a local dairy farm. We were able to provide the project significant financial benefit to the landowner. And we did that really in two ways. One, the City of Broadhead, who is taking these credits from the landowner, we paid them financially a percentage of the construction cost. And then we also paid basically a subsidized rate for technical assistance or engineering. Which is, I would say in a lot of cases when you're doing dairy farm projects, that can actually be one of the biggest hindrances, the cost for technical service.
The first reaction is like, sure, they're going to just give us money, and it's like, so I'm pretty leery of it to begin with, but then as we progress through the project, looking at some of the options available to us, and then it actually dovetailed into what we were doing quite well with my son buying in and doing some expansion and updating. So it actually did fit into our program quite well. We tore down 2 buildings and took out a small capacity manure pit and built this building, which converted into 64 free stalls, calving barn, holding area, and a sick pen, and then along with the manure storage. And then we did a lot of runoff projects with all the rest of the buildings to try to keep clean water separated. With our lagoon that we built, we should be able to apply manure once in the fall, maybe in the spring, kind of depending on where the weather lines up and we can get operators in to do that. But then we should be able to do basically minimum till or no-till injection. So then, we won't have runoff. We will have control of nutrients. We should be getting a bigger benefit out of the nutrients that are in the manure. I mean, so you can see pretty easily where the dollar signs line up on it. We would have never been able to do this without that cost share money.
I was brought in to help Rob and Jordan make some decisions about how do they want to improve their farmstead, how to become a better dairy. As a resource consultant, I was brought in as technical assistance, and my fee was compensated through the City of Broadhead. So my knowledge of NRCS and the EQIP cost share program, in addition to the financial incentives that City of Broadhead was bringing, we were able to actually marry the two together and minimizing the overall cost to the farmer. And I feel that's part of being successful with farmers is looking at them as an individual and prescribing a custom application that helps them improve, be sustainable, be environmentally friendly, manage land, be land stewards, and create that efficiency. We looked at manure management, we looked at lot management, we looked at feed systems, and from there we kind of create a short list. Where are we going to optimize our phosphorus credits to help the City of Broadhead?
The Watershed project in this case is substantially lower cost than the wastewater treatment plant project. The other, interesting aspect is where the City of Broadhead is in the Sugar River watershed as a whole. Broadhead is very much so at the bottom of the watershed. And so the amount of phosphorus load that they actually produce to the Sugar River is maybe only 0.5%, maybe less than that. Why would we spend $4.2 million to fix a 0.5% of a problem when we can do something that's less expensive and potentially reduce more phosphorus than just at the treatment plant?
It really makes sense to work together, and this is basically everybody's issue, not just the farmer's issue, or pointing the fingers just at the farmers. And I always looked at agriculture as we're probably more the solution than we are the problem. But I think we're learning how to work together, and by working together, I think that we can share that responsibility and the costs in a lot of these areas that can make a difference.
It seems like a win-win so far because this agreement could help fund the transition that we will need to do to turn this land from monocrops into a perennial pasture. And then after that transition period, it can really help us to cash flow our grazing operation, because we can still graze, we can still do a lot of the practices and the things that we do on our other land, but also ensure that we follow the protocols that the village needs to make sure they can get their credit, and that we can reduce the number of pounds of phosphorus coming off our farm.
People are reading more and engaging more with climate change issues and watershed issues, and as water becomes dirtier and pollution increases and climate change becomes more of a conversation, a daily conversation that people are having, agriculture, rotational grazing, the kind of agriculture that we are doing and seek to even do better at, is really rising to the top as part of the solution. And even the City of Albany and Broadhead are realizing the way to take phosphorus out of the water and solve nitrogen issues and carbon issues is to look to the farmers. So I think we're only going to see that trend grow.